Hey, what's going on, my friend? Hey, Leon Thomas here, and in this video, I'm gonna be sharing with you seven mistakes that I made and that you are making that can be costing you sales if you are a sales representative in any industry, right? So, seven mistakes that you might be making and that I made personally that cost me tens of thousands of dollars in sales over the last few years, especially my first year and a half or two of selling, right? So let's go ahead and dive right into it because we got a lot to cover, right? So number one of the first mistakes that I made as a sales rep that cost me tens of thousands of dollars that you might be making, number one is personality selling, right? So personality selling. So what is personality selling? Personality selling is basically when you get into a home or on a phone call or on a Zoom, however you are actually interacting with your clients or your customers, and you're basically trying to just use your personality, good charisma, maybe you look good, maybe you feel like you sound good, and you're basically just real giddy, you're all excited, you're hyped up about your product or service, and maybe you have a little bit of a charm. Maybe you are, great with people. Maybe you are really good at just being conversational. And so you think that just having a good conversation, and maybe because you are a people person, that you can just sell anything. And you're relying more so on just your charisma, your own personality, and it has nothing to do with the person who you're trying to sell your product or your service to, right? It has nothing to do with them. It's more so about you and how you feel, but you don't do anything to pull any emotion out of them in regards to why they should even talk to you, let alone buy your product or your service, right? So personality selling. And you can't sell a personality because the reality is that some days you're gonna feel great, some days you're not. You might come off of a great sales call and you might transition to another sales call and you're feeling great. And maybe you close the deal, maybe you make the sale, maybe you don't. But in some cases, maybe you didn't have the results you want out of a previous call. Maybe you're having a bad day and you may transition and take that same negative energy, that same negative mindset from a bad sales call or a bad sales experience, and then you transition it over to another one. And then for some reason, because you're down about losing a sale, you're just not as hyped up or excited or encouraged about this next sale. And so your personality selling is, it's not a sustainable way to do business. It's not a sustainable way to sell because our emotions fluctuate as a salesperson. In most cases, especially when you're brand new, your emotions vary from sales call to sales call, from in-home presentation to in-home presentation. And so in most cases, when you're brand new, it doesn't serve you well, and it's just not a sustainable way to close sales and to make money and to get people to buy your thing, your product, or your service on a consistent basis, right? So that's number one, right? So personality selling, right? So number two is disarming questions, right? No disarming questions. Let's just be honest. People buy on emotions. You probably heard it before. People buy on emotions and they justify it with logic. And so if you are in a situation where you are only relying on the logical side, getting people just to talk about the natural, obvious reasons as to why they need your product or service or your thing, you are going to fail, right? You are not going to close the sales, and you're obviously not going to make the money that you want to make because people don't buy on logic, right? They buy on their emotions and they justify it with logic. And so if you don't ask disarming questions to bring their walls down, bring their defense mechanisms down, to get them comfortable, to disarm them, where they can actually open up to you and begin to share with you their greatest pain points, their greatest problems as to why they, clicked on your ad, why they're looking into your thing, then you are not going to get the real reasons as to why. You're not going to bring out the pain and the emotion of why they need to make the change and buy your product or your service. And so when you disarm people, then what you're doing is you're bringing their defense mechanisms down, and you're going to begin to see more people open up to you, where it's more of a conversation versus a interrogation type of thing where it's you against them. It should never be a situation where it's you against them, where it's like a back and forth where you're like interrogating them and asking them questions just so that you can just use them against them. You're asking questions to identify their greatest pain points and why they even may need your product and or your service. And so when you begin to use disarming questions, they're going to open up to you. You're going to have them more emotionally open to you, and where they're going to share with you things that they would never share with you just if you're asking surface level questions, okay? So no disarming. That was one biggest mistakes that I made. I didn't disarm them. And so by the time I got to the end of my presentations, when I was trying to close the deal, well, they had all these other objections that I never even asked them because I didn't ask the right questions. And they brought them all up at the end. And at that point, it was just like a back and forth thing. I didn't really know how to respond. And if I did, it sounded combative and it wasn't conversational sales process. And so that's one of the other biggest things mistakes that I made that you don't want to make and you might be making, all right? So you have to learn how to disarm your prospects in the process when you're actually selling them your product and your service, okay? So number three was bashing competitors instead of edifying them. Now this is a big one because I know a lot of times most sales reps think that bashing or degrading your competition is going to elevate your status or your product and or service in the minds of your customers. And that couldn't be any further from the truth. The last thing that you want to do in any situation where your client is bringing up your competitor. Let's just say, for example, a quote, and they're quoting a competitor, a well-known competitor. What you want to do is you want to say something along the lines of, hey, you know what, they're great and all, but I'm just curious, why didn't you go with them? Right? Why didn't you go with them? They're a great company, they got a great history, but why haven't you made the decision to go with them? Right? So what I'm doing is I'm edifying them and I'm asking them the question out of a curiosity tone. And so therefore what I'm doing is I'm not going to degrade them. I'm not going to bash them. I'm going to speak well of them. I'll even edify them. And then I'm going to ask them questions along the lines of, in the tone of, well, why didn't you join with them? Why haven't you signed up with them? Because they're a great company, right? What that's going to do is that's going to get your prospect to actually open up and share with you exactly why they didn't. What that's also going to do is going to give you an opportunity to either present something that may be better, maybe it's equivalent as far as your product and your service and the benefits of what you can do. However, when you bash them, you immediately you take away your credibility and you lower your status in the eyes of your prospects, okay? So don't bash other companies, always edify them, and then ask your questions, ask your clients, why didn't they move forward? What was it that they didn't like about what the competitor offered, right? So that's tip number three. Okay, let's go ahead and move right on down the list here. Asking surface level questions. Now, surface level questions are more on your logical side, which is what most of us do because we know the basics. So let's just say, for example, solar, right? Sold solar for years, did really well in that industry. The basic, things for solar is what? The rate hikes. You want to avoid the rate hikes and you want to lock in your current utility rate, right? Those are your basic things. So if I ask questions like, well, what makes you think, what got you guys thinking about going solar? Well, because of the rate hikes and because of we want to lock in our rate and we want to be off the grid or whatever, right? Those are surface level questions. The question that you want to be asking are questions, if I would ask a homeowner now versus what I did then, would be something along the lines of, so what is the reason you guys are considering going solar now and how has it impacted you? Right? So that's a two-tier, what we call a two-tier level question, right? So it's 2 in 1, but I'm not asking surface level questions. What I'm doing is I'm asking them why and what is the impact that it had. So I'm gonna say it again. What is the reason you guys are looking at going solar now? And what is the impact that it's had on you by not going solar? Right? So I'm asking them why now and what has not making the decision up till this point cost them? How has it affected them, right? So I'm digging a little bit deeper and I'm asking those questions in a change of tone, in a concerned tone, so they can understand that I actually care, because how you sound when you are actually sharing the question that you ask is how they're going to interpret it. And so it's not just asking the questions like, let's just say, for example, I said, well, how's that affected you now? Right? Why now? Right? My tone is more of a Q&A style question. It's not me asking out of concern. I had no emotion in it. Therefore, they're not going to have any emotion in it. So you have to understand, when you have emotion and your emotion is displayed in the tone that you ask your clients, in return, they're going to reciprocate that emotion to you because that's the emotion that you are projecting to them. And so if you understand when you are asking questions, simply learning how to change your tone and learning tonality is going to affect the process in which how they perceive you and how they respond to you, all right? So asking those questions is very important. So you want to learn how to begin to ask more than just surface level questions. You have to go in depth and ask what we call BEBT questions. These are biological emotional buying triggers. When you learn to ask these questions on biological emotional buying triggers, then you're going to get the responses that actually yield you the best answers, which are going to be the answers that they had that are true at heart, the hidden emotions, the hidden pain points in their heart, all right? So let's go to the next one. Number 5 here, being product driven versus people driven, right? Now, a lot of us, when we first start in sales, I know myself included, I'm no different than you. What we do is we think that our product is the best, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. You shouldn't sell it if you don't believe in it, and that goes without saying. However, your prospects, your clients, the people you're trying to sell your thing to, they don't know that, and they don't even care, all right? They really don't care. What you want to focus on is we were in the people business first, then the product business. So people before products. And when we understand that we're dealing with people first, then we can begin to focus on, well, how do we deal with people? How are we communicating with people? How are we displaying our message? How are we what is our sales process, and how are we getting them to share with us how we can help them? Because the reality is that you're not into the business of trying to convince people to buy your products, okay? You are in the business of actually getting them. Your job is to get them to open up and share with you their deepest pain points and why they need your product or your service so that you can actually help them in the way that best suits them. I hope that makes sense to you, okay? You are not in the business of trying to get people to buy. With the BEBT framework, what we do is we teach you how to get people to sell themselves so you can sell more of whatever you want with less effort, okay? So that was number 5, okay? Being product driven over people driven. Once you transition to serving people, you put the product second because the product is just a solution to a problem, okay? You're never selling the product. You are selling what the product does, right? You're never selling your thing, whether it be life insurance, whether it be solar, whether it be health insurance, whether it be a car, whether it be homeowner insurance, no matter what it is, you are always selling the end result. Your thing is just what gets them the result, okay? All right, so let's go with number 6. Number 6 is playing the numbers game. Now, this is a huge one because I know a lot of us sales reps, we think that it sounds cliche, it sounds great to say, well, I'm just playing the numbers game. And what that really says is you're not really good at what you do, so you're gonna shoot your shot and see how many you make. Those that you make, you call them wins, and those you don't, you call them losses, but you don't necessarily worry about the losses. And as a sales representative, as an elite sales representative, you want to maximize every opportunity that you can. But you can't maximize every opportunity that you can without true sales skills. And so when you play the numbers game, basically what you're doing is you're throwing mud up on the wall, as they say, and you're seeing whatever sticks. If you make a sale, you make a sale. If you don't, you don't, right? Well, that's really relying more so on chance than skill. And you can't increase your sales if you're relying on chance. You can only increase your sales and improve your sales, your closing ability, by increasing your skill sets. So playing the numbers game, what it really does is, what I learned over the years is, it actually gave me an out when I failed, where I didn't examine myself and why I didn't close the sale. And what most sales reps do when they do not make the sale, well, they don't self-reflect, they don't analyze their situation, they don't look at what they did wrong, they blame it on the client, they blame it on the customer, they blame it on the prospect, they blame it on the lead, and they don't have any self-accountability. And so what you want to begin to do is you want to understand that you need to understand if you focus on your skills, then you're going to improve drastically. And so does it mean that you're going to close every deal? No one's a 100% closer. No, but you can increase your closing ability. You can increase your sales and you can increase your income. So those are the things that you want to focus on. You never want to just play the numbers game, because the numbers game is actually a losing game. All right. I repeat, the numbers game is a losing game. There's no accountability, and you're basically just relying on chance to make sales and hit your income goals, okay? So last one here, ladies and gentlemen, of course, explaining benefits without identifying true pain points, right? I know I did this a lot early on in my sales career. I thought that if I could just tell them about how great the product is and all of the benefits, it's American made, and you know, all the warranty stuff and all these different things, that was going to cause them to want to buy. And the reality is that they don't really care, right? They don't really care. And this is, you know, right in conjunction with the products over people. And I say that because we don't know, if you don't know what the problem is, then there's nothing you can do, right? You have to identify the problem and you have to exaggerate that problem. You need to know what are their pain points and why. Because the benefits of your thing means nothing to them if you haven't brought out why they need to make the change and buy your thing. Why if they do nothing, and what's going to happen if they do nothing. What is the cost of inaction? What is the cost of not doing, you know, making the switch and doing what it is that they need to do, buying your thing, buying your product, or buying your service. If they don't know that, then the benefits of your product and or your service means absolutely nothing, right? So with that being said, that's it. That's what I got for you guys today. I hope you guys got some value from this. Comment, like, subscribe. Until the next one, I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye.